But that's a good point that you mentioned, Jeff. Yeah. We need to definitely help them, because the resume is your door, is your foot at the door of getting that job at
and it changes. Say back in '98, the last time I did my resume was like back in '98 when I got out of school. And back then the employers wanted to see all your experience and all this stuff. And it was like a 2-page resume, and I could have made 5 pages, you know?
Sure.
Now it's like they want a 1-page bulleted to the point, and it changes.
And no more than 2 pages.
No more than, but I mean, a lot of them, and I do the same myself when I'm looking out, I pick it up, and if it's a little long, I'm like, oh man, okay.
Yeah.
And also the cover letter. There is there's help there with cover letter as well, because it's good to have that cover letter to go along with that.
Yeah, to make them want to read the resume.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get that carrot on the hook.
I mean, until we met you, we hire experienced people here. I mean, it might be different now because if you and I can form some kind of.
Oh yeah. They have the OJT.
Yeah, we got that experience because we don't have
OJT.
Yeah. What about IT resumes? Information technology. Are they 1-page too?
Usually yes. In fact, I just had a gentleman last week to give me a resume for IT, and he put it all in one. Nice, well done, and it was a very, very good resume that he had.
But 2 is acceptable.
Yeah, 2 is acceptable.
Simulation, IT programs, anything in those fields.
The average usually that I see sometimes is maybe a 1.25 pages, 1.5 pages.
Yeah. So it's, okay.
So.
Yeah, all right. I'm just trying to. We're all looking here. You know, let me see here. Dave, you thinking about like getting an IT job somewhere? Or? He's writing it all down.
You need another card.
Yes, give me 2 cards.
Well, that's great. You know, this is real valuable information. Matter of fact, I think we're having a good show here today.
I think so too. We haven't
even got to Will Allen. I'm sorry.
I'm learning here.
This is great. This is beautiful. You know, you are listening to WKSA, and I hope you're listening, because if not, you're missing a good show. This is all informative, and this is great. This is 89.3, so if you're on like 99.3, turn it 10 clicks down. You know.
Yeah, you're on the wrong station.
You're on the wrong station, guys. Okay, give us your contact info one more time, please, and then we're going to pass the mic.
The email is www.careercentral.jobs, JOBS, or if they want to call me on my cell phone, it's 352-293-1123, and I have my cell phone with me 24 hours a day. That's Steve Wilson.
Steve Wilson. Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much, Maribel. We appreciate you guys. You're not done yet.
No,
we're going to go to Congressman Weatherford here, and then we're going to rotate through. As a matter of fact, eventually we're going to play a nice CD from that Christian CD that we play, Cindy's Niece and Nephews. We're going to let Congressman Representative Weatherford.
You can call me whatever you want.
All right.
Actually, I'm state representative, but you can call me
state representative. Well, he's saying Congressman.
Some people call that a promotion, you know.
Well, you know what? It's fine with me.
How do you explain the difference?
Future Congressman.
As long as you check the right box off on election day.
Okay.
Exactly. State Representative District 61 will be Congressman, and soon to be Congressman.
Well, no, he's already a congressman.
That's right.
Yeah, he's already a congressman.
No, state representative.
What is the state representative?
A representative is called congressman.
He's mixing me up. I understood everything you said.
Just call me Will Weatherford. That's really the only thing I need to
All right, Will, the floor is yours, buddy.
Wait a minute. If you say he's mixing you up, then you're saying I could run for Congress too?
No. I know, Steve. It's different.
I understand him so far.
No, look, I appreciate being on the show. This has been a lot of fun already. And Jim and Nita, I appreciate you guys having us on. I've enjoyed listening to Steve and Maribel talk about what government's doing for us. You know, I think a lot of times people get frustrated because they feel like government's working against them more than they're working for them. But here's a perfect example of a program that is focused on getting two groups and having them meet together. You got employers out there that need people, and then you've got people who are looking for a job. And the fact is, even in this environment, as bad as it is, as bad as the economy has been, there still are people hiring out there. People just don't know where to go. And so Career Central does a great job for the state of Florida, and certainly here in Pasco and Hernando County of kind of letting people know what jobs are out there and making sure that people have the right skill set for them. So it's a good example of government doing the right thing. But I'll tell you, is what I've kind of learned in my short tenure in the legislature is that government doesn't always do the right thing, and a lot of times we're involved in things we shouldn't be. I think there's a misnomer out there right now in government that people think that government creates jobs. Government doesn't create jobs. In fact, the only thing we can probably do is kill them by having too much regulation and taxation. What we should be doing in government is focusing on creating jobs by letting the private sector create the jobs, and then have people like Career Central come out there and make sure we got the people there that can hook up with them. But you know, the way you create jobs, I think, how do you make Florida? The question we're all asking ourselves is, how do we make Florida, make this country a more competitive place? You know, because we're not competing in Florida. People think we're competing against Hillsborough and Pasco and Hernando and Lake County. That's not it. We're not even competing against Georgia and Alabama. We're competing against other countries. And when you're a business owner and you're making a decision, where do I want to start my business? Do I want to start in Florida or in Alabama, or do I want to go to China? Because believe it or not, a lot of American companies are looking at taking their businesses to other countries. And why is that? Why are people looking at other countries? Well, the reason for that is because there's an old saying that says capital goes where it's treated best. And what that means is, if somebody treats your investment better in another place, then that's where you're going to send your money, because it's being treated better, whether that's regulation, whether it's the tax policy, all those things matter. And so in Florida, for us to be competitive and for us to take that unemployment number in Pasco County, which is almost 13%, and bring it down to where it was 4 years ago, which was 4%, we're going to have to figure out a way on how we compete on a global market. And the way you do that, first of all, is you have a tax structure that makes sense and is low. But if you have a high tax structure, right now in the United States, we have the highest corporate income tax in the world. Okay, it used to be Japan, and then we were second. Wow. Now Japan's lowered theirs. The highest corporate income tax in the world. When you hear people complain about, why are we sending jobs overseas? We're not sending jobs overseas. We're chasing them out of this country by having a tax structure that disincentivizes people who want to invest their money. And then you talk about the regulation and the burden that government can put on businesses. When you're a small business and you're just trying to get a small little permit so you can knock a wall down and open up 2 rooms and make it 1 big room, and you got to wait for the county to come down there and tell you it's okay, that's ridiculous, right? And the overburdensome regulation, whether it's the agencies on the local level, or the state level, or the federal level, those things kill jobs because it costs money. And in business, time is money. And whenever you're delaying something, it has an adverse effect. The other thing that I talk a lot about that I think is important is the fact that if we're going to come out of this recession in Florida and in this country, it's going to be small businesses that are going to do it. The large corporations, they report to shareholders and things like that, and they're going to keep their balance sheet as clean as possible, because they're not going to go out and hire a bunch of people really quickly, because they want to make sure that they're making money and they're profitable and everything else. Small businesses are the ones who are the quickest to hire people back and put them back into the marketplace. And so what we should be doing is looking for ways, how do we make the tax burden less on our local pizzeria right off of 48, right? How do we make sure that the unemployment comp tax is affordable? How do we make sure that the unemployment compensation tax that's out there is affordable for our small businesses? And so that's really important. Another big issue too, and then I'll kind of shut up and you guys can ask me some questions. I'm on my little soapbox here. This is important. The other thing is education. You know, and you hear politicians and statesmen and public officials talk a lot about the importance of education. Well, the reason why they talk about it so much is because it actually is that important, right? And you have what they call cycles of poverty. There are pockets in this state and all over this country where you may have tremendous wealth and growth in one area, and 30 miles away there are people going to bed at night hungry. And the reason for that is that population, for the most part, has very little education. Maybe on average, there are pockets like Lacucci, Florida, which is between here and Dade City, right? The average education there is like the 7th grade. Okay, these folks are not getting educated, and therefore they don't have the skill set to go out there. And what I tell people is, I think everybody who was around during the Cold War between the USSR and America will remember that there was an arms race that took place, and it was who could build up a stronger military to compete in the 20th century. I think the arms race in the 21st century is education. Who's going to have the most educated citizens, and who's going to have the most educated workforce? Because the jobs of tomorrow are not the exact same jobs that are here today. And then bioscience and biotechnology and engineering and what they call STEM related, which is science, technology, engineering, math, those types of education related courses are the future of where the jobs are going to be in the 21st century. And if we're not producing those, and if we keep producing philosophy majors, the #1 major coming out of our colleges today is psychology. Now look, I got nothing against psychology. And for your listeners out there that they either are psychologists or have a psychological problem, but psychology is good. But how many jobs are out there that are sitting there for the higher psychologists? There's not, and we need to be finding ways to direct our students, whether in high school or whether in college, into areas where there are actual jobs and where the jobs of the future are going to be, and training them in that. And so education is absolutely important. And for us to be competitive in the 21st century, we're going to have to be able to do it. And the education systems in other countries and their ability to innovate, China and India and South America and Europe, frankly, is surpassing ours. And we're not going to be the greatest.